Welcome to the All of You podcast, where we believe healthy relationships are created by growing individually and pursuing a healthy relationship with yourself.
So let's take a deep breath. Settle in and grow together. We have a very special guest this week. He is an incredible indie author of probably one of my favorite books, actually.
Wow.
He is a viral content creator. He was my wedding officiant.
And mine.
Oh,
Well,
that
I really
makes sense.
only did it for Shiv. let's be clear.
And he is also our brother-in-law, Tanner Orel.
Thanks for having you guys. I'm honored. The first day that you guys said you're thinking about doing a podcast, I think the first thing I said was, "When is Daddy coming on?"
Well, Daddy is home.
Yeah, Daddy is home. No, I'm honored that you guys asked me to come on. I'm excited and a little bit nervous, but feeling great overall.
Awesome, man. We're so stoked to have you. We just love you, man, and we're excited to get into it and talk all things you and everything that you
My
do.
favorite topic.
Yeah. You're kind of in the hot seat a little bit with us
like I'm in
both
the
over
hot seat,
here
yeah.
and you over there. So obviously, man, you're such a creative guy. I think we would say that you're the most creative person we know, probably. We want to talk to you about what goes on in your mind in the creative process and get a little bit into that. What's some of your biggest struggles when it comes to creating content or writing?
Yeah, it's a loaded question for sure. I think we're just going to get deep immediately. I think a lot of people don't know
That's
this
kind of
about
what we
me.
do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm going to present all of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know this about me, is that I'm a really negative person. And I do struggle with depression and insecurities, obviously, when in the creative industry, feel like they're more prevalent because it feels like it's so much of yourself that you're presenting. And so for me, the biggest challenge with me creatively, I've created this lie. I've told myself this lie that I won't be happy until I reach ABC. And a good example of that. So for me, I've told myself this lie, and I even recognize it's a lie, but I can't seem to ignore it as I'm talking about it. I've told myself I won't be happy until I'm a air quote successful author. And in my mind, success just means I'm writing full time. That's my main source of income. That's how I provide for my family. And so because that I've set that goal for myself, and that consumes a lot of my thoughts that I won't be happy until I achieve this thing, I'm really callous to the smaller victories, to a lot of good things that are happening around me and happening for me, happening to me. And like I said, I'm so callous to those things that I don't celebrate those things. And that's when the other lies start creeping in. It's well, sure, this is happening, but I'm not where I would like to be. And therefore I'm a loser. Therefore, I'm failing. And a good example of that was on Easter Sunday. You guys were being so sweet. We were all together with our family, and you guys were being so encouraging that I had recently gotten a lot of traction on social media. And you guys were being so kind and saying I can't believe you have so many followers. This video is has over 1 million views. That's amazing. And to me, because I'm not where I've picture myself, that means nothing to me. And I'm hearing you guys say that, and I'm yeah, but I'm not where I'm supposed to be, so this doesn't matter. And it's instead of celebrating the work I've put into hit 1 million views, and we just were discussing just hit 20,000 followers on TikTok, you think the guy would be excited. But I'm but I'm just it's always, and I think that's part of the challenge too, is initially when I started, I'm it looks so sad to have under 100 followers on Instagram. If I could just get 100 followers, I feel I'm taking such good steps. I hit 100 followers, feel nothing. I'm I only have 100. That in itself feels more embarrassing than having 12 for some reason. So it's no, if I could only get 500, hit 500, I think you know where this is going. And same with views. It's oh, my videos only get 200 views. okay, if I could just get like 1,000 views, like that, things are going to start moving, things are going to start changing. And so then fast forward, it hit 1 million views, and it was exciting for about 30 seconds. And I don't want to be callous to, like, that's amazing that me talking to my camera on my iPhone 12 with my shitty mic in our spare bedroom got over 1 million views. I wish I could celebrate that for whatever reason. I'm just really hard on myself. And I think that comes with being creative and feeling like burdened with aspirations, is that part of being creative is I can so clearly picture what I want for myself that when I'm not at that thing, I just feel disappointed and I feel like a loser and I feel like I'm failing. This was such a long answer to your first question.
No, it's beautiful, man.
I'm so glad that you shared all of that, because I think that that is a silent battle so many people are in, day in and day out, but few people actually want to step on the mic, get in the hot seat, and actually admit that. Do you feel like there are tools that you have or things that you can do to help yourself celebrate those wins and like actually ground into that moment and go like, look how far I've gone? Or do you feel like you're just majority of the time in that like really critical place?
Yeah, it comes in waves where I have like these, and I will say they're brief, but I have these like really intense waves of depression where it's like, so it's honestly like these like little 24-hour stints that are really intense, really dark. I'm like to the point where like, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm like, why am I doing this? No one cares. No one will ever care. And I'm grateful that they're brief, because I can't imagine like there's a lot of people that experience that every day, which I can't imagine. So I'm grateful for the brief. And I think a huge part of why they're brief is because I have intentionally surrounded myself with people who are optimists. It's funny, like all of my closest friends, and especially my wife, your lovely sister, and like my main core group of friends are kind of the opposite of me in a lot of ways, where they're extremely optimistic. They see every win, and they're really good at like affirming that in me. 99% of the time I don't believe it, but they're still planting that seed, and they're fighting for me to see that, which I greatly appreciate. And things that I do to battle that, and I have to shout out my buddy Zach, who you guys know that I've worked on a lot of projects with. He's pulled me out of the pit of despair like more times than I can count. And he's someone that's like really vocalizes like, hey, you have the same cycle. Like it's like every month you fall into the same cycle. And he's really great at just validating the victories. And it's just like an incredible friend that refuses to let me stay in that dark place. Because he knows too that like creativity gets shut down when we're stressed, and when we let that darkness seep in, that where we don't produce good art. And so for me, and it's not always a great coping mechanism, but I have a hard time taking things seriously, but it's my greatest shield. It's just because like I feel like I'm constantly at war with like these dark thoughts and these insecurities. And for me, it's like, I just joke about everything. And like, it's like I have a torch. My jokes are my torch, and I'm just keeping the darkness at bay. And if I turn that an obnoxious side of me off, it feels like I let those like dark thoughts seep in. And so that's why I'm cursed with sarcasm and just constant banter. And
it is truly a blessing and a curse, because it's why your content is, I mean, I am going to just sing your praises for a second. It's insanely witty. It is some of the wittiest content I've seen. And to be fair, I don't understand a lot of it, Tanner.
Sure. Yeah, sure. It's extremely niche content.
But the stuff that I do, I am like, where does he come up with this? But I wanted to actually touch on a little bit the pit of despair.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this pit of despair and why you call it that.
Yeah, I can't coin the term. It's this idea that it's kind of like the opposite of like a narrative chart because it drops down. And so it's the idea that you get excited, really excited about starting a podcast, right? And the initial idea, you're really passionate about it, you're so excited, and so you're starting to take steps to make it happen. Everything's fun because you're excited,
Yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh man, I got to learn how to do cameras. I got to learn how to do mics. I have to learn how to do social media. I have to make all this content. I posted my first video. It got 0 likes. I have 0 likes on my first video. And now all of a sudden you're here and you're looking at the wall that you have to crawl out of. And you're like, this is impossible. And fun fact, like 1 out of 1,000 people actually will finish like a creative writing project, like start to finish, and actually finish. 1 in 1,000 people, because the idea is so fun. Wait, this is harder than I thought. This is pretty challenging actually. And then you get down into what we know as the pit of despair, and you just want to quit because you're looking at the work you're going to have to do to actually crawl out. And of course, the idea is that things are a lot better when you crawl your way out. But the effort to crawl out feels insurmountable. It feels impossible. And so many people get trapped in the pit of despair. And like I said, I've surrounded myself intentionally with people that throw ropes down there to help drag me out, because otherwise I would undeniably be trapped down there. And those things can look like getting a message of someone saying like, hey, I really love your book, or I've been really enjoying your content. And that like kind of helps you start to claw your way out a little bit, because you're like, okay, maybe this does matter. Maybe people do care, and I'm just in my head. But like I said, so many projects die in the pit of despair. And another challenging thing about that cycle is people assume once they crawl their way out and they're back at the top, they're like, okay, I did the hard things. I've made it. Now it should be over. But unfortunately, eventually, as more challenges rise and you have to learn more things and you have to improve, you start to slide back down. And so it's this constant wave that we all fall into. And choosing to move forward is knowing that eventually you're going to be in the pit again. But the hope is each time you enter the pit, you now have more tools to better understand how to escape said pit.
Yeah.
Is the idea,
Yeah.
right? Is to improve, and it gets easier each time. You know it's coming. It's undeniably hard every time you're in it. But it becomes, I don't even want to say easier. It becomes more familiar, and you maybe have more hope when you're in it because you know that you eventually are going to escape.
Yeah, man. Well said. I love that, because I think like we always just, like you said in the beginning, we always just continue to move the needle.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're always like trying to hit new goals and establish ourselves in a new way, or have some new creative venture that you want to try. And it's like with every one is going to come its own challenges and obstacles, and you almost have to just know that the pit of despair is going to be there.
Right.
Or else if you don't know, then you get blindsided by it, and that's probably where you end up just quitting, or most people quit when they're in that. So what are some of the tools that you use now other than friends to like pull yourself out?
I think a lot of times I do get stuck, and I think that's those like really brief waves of just like agony. But I think there's like some really simple things, and that I've heard you guys talk about 1,000 times. It's like getting outside and exercise. For whatever reason, I think my mind it just feels like it's constantly going, and I feel like I never get a break from myself and my ideas. And like I said, unfortunately, most of those ideas and thoughts are really negative. And so for me, exercising, it feels like it's the only time that I turn my brain off, that I'm not thinking about a creative project. I'm not thinking about the ways that I'm failing. I'm not thinking about the areas that I need to grow in. And so that like physically moving my body, especially like getting outside, immediately starts to like, I just get hyper focused on that thing that I'm doing, and shuts things down a little bit. I think an unhealthy way that I try to cope with being in the pit is there's a lot of times where I try to like disassociate and I try to like deny that I'm there and just like accept that try to convince myself that I'm not in the pit of despair. And so I'm a big escapist. Like I use escapism, which is like some days when I'm in a dark spot, like the moment I wake up, basically till like the moment my wife gets home from work at like 4:30 p.m., like I have my headphones in and I will listen to like 3 audiobooks and like a podcast like in a day. And it's just like anything to ignore my own thoughts and not address like what the issue is and address that like I am feeling like I'm in that pit. And it distracts me, but it doesn't help me begin the steps of getting out. And so then I'm just sitting there and just like, in truth, like making things worse. And so I think a huge first step for me is acknowledging that I'm there. And for me, it's as little as just telling someone that like, hey, I'm here and I'm sad about it. And it's like, once I address it, then I'm like, okay, it feels so stupid once you say it. Cause then you're like, okay, then why am I just sitting in it? So acknowledging it, for whatever reason, I think is often a huge challenge for people to acknowledge and admit that they're in a bad place. They're in a hard spot. And okay, here's a bad analogy. You love analogies, as do I.
Love them.
Say we're watching a football game. Okay, we're watching the NFL.
I'm here with you.
Yes. Okay. One of the players pulls his hamstring. He gets hurt somehow. Our reaction would never be like, oh my gosh, this guy's so soft. That's so embarrassing that he got hurt. Our reaction is like, oh, that sucks. But like getting injured in a football game, that's an occupational hazard of being a football player. When we are sad, when we get hurt, when we're wounded, some reason our reaction is to be like, oh, I'm fine. Because we don't think that people will be like, oh, that sucks. That's just an occupational hazard of being human.
Yeah.
That's just a part of caring. And we want to just say, oh, we're fine. But if that player were to he just tore his hamstring and he's like, oh, no, I'm fine. He keeps trying to play, or he just goes off by himself and he doesn't get the treatment that he needs. He can never get back in the game. He can never heal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a long time, it was hard for me to admit like, yeah, this is actually like pursuing a dream, trying to do, as silly as it sounds, like trying to create social content.
Yeah.
Like you get kicked around and beat up a lot. And it was hard for me initially to be like, this is super hard. I feel really defeated. I feel super burnt out and I don't want to do this anymore. Because I assumed people would be like, oh, he's like soft. He's giving up. When in truth, every time I talk to someone about it, they're like, yeah, dude, absolutely. This is so hard. Like, I can't believe you're even trying to do this.
Yeah.
Hardest thing we've ever done.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I really resonate with that analogy that you said, because I feel like outside wounds are so socially acceptable,
Right.
but internal wounds aren't.
Correct.
And I think that's so much actually the mission of our podcast is to normalize that we all have internal wounds. And so I'm just really grateful that you're actually willing to share some of yours with us.
Happy to share.
Hopefully when you're like trying to distract you, like, you know, listening to podcasts all day, that once ours comes on, we make you face it.
Yeah. I'm immediately healed the moment you two come on.
Hey friends, if you're struggling in your relationships, we want you to know we've been there and real change is possible.
So whether you're moving on from a breakup, working to strengthen your relationship, or just ready to show up differently in your life, we're here to help you out. Click the link in our bio and book a free 30-minute consultation with us, and we'll see if we're a good fit to work together.
And if you're enjoying this episode, we would love it if you would like, subscribe, or share this podcast, because better relationships start with better conversations. Now back to the show. I want to go back into, I was about to say, well, I am saying, I want to go back into the pit of despair.
Back into the pit, sure.
I don't.
We love the pit of despair.
Yeah.
I feel like we just live in it.
Yeah.
And so I deeply, deeply resonate with what you're saying.
Sure.
the choice to be someone who pursues a life where it's just almost required and a rite of passage to climb out of the pit of despair and then into the next one and out of the pit of despair and into the next one. We've all chosen that life.
Mm-hmm.
I know why I've chosen it. Although there are days where I go, what am I thinking? This is so freaking hard. Why have you chosen a life that requires the pit of despair? Because you could go the safe route and not have to climb in and out of this pit.
Yeah, absolutely. I also ask myself that almost every day, like why this route? A big part of it stems from my childhood, and my father is the most hardworking person I've ever met. And he has been an elevator mechanic for like over 35 or 30 something years. And he was miserable in his job. He hated his job. It's really like, it's manual labor. And you're climbing up and down stairs because the elevators don't work. That's why he's there. And he's climbing in and out of elevator shafts. And it's a tough job. And so he took that experience and he really encouraged my brother and I. He said, if you have any opportunity to pursue something that you're actually passionate about, you have to at least try. And I don't know if he meant for me to take it so to heart. But that's always been in the back of my mind. And I've tried a lot of different jobs, and I've hated just about everything I've ever done. And which is a challenge in itself. But I genuinely wish that I could turn off the creative desires of my heart, as tacky as it sounds. I wish that I could turn my mind off from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. and I could sell life insurance, and that it didn't matter to me, and that I could go through the motions and I could make great money and I could provide for my family, doing something that I didn't care about. And I've tried some things in that route, and it just felt like soul crushing, and I felt small. And the truth is, I've learned that in those seasons when I've forced myself to settle, that I don't grow at all. And that's the beauty of the pit of despair, is it's miserable and it's hard and it's uncomfortable. But my greatest seasons of growth have been in the pit of despair. And so it's a weird love-hate relationship where it's like, I know I'm there. I'm like, I have to take the steps to get out. And to recognize that to pursue the things that I want, it's going to be incredibly hard, and I'm going to end up in the pit over and over and over again. And it would be a lot easier to go sell life insurance. I'd probably make a killing selling life insurance.
I think you could sell anything.
I do. I think you could. Yeah.
Too kind. Where it's comfortable and where it's safe. But growth and comfort can never coexist. And so to force myself to be uncomfortable, I mean, 2 years ago, I said, I will never do social media. Like, I think it's toxic and it's embarrassing, and I'll never be a content creator. And those were just excuses because it made me feel anxious, and I didn't want to put myself out there. And
wow, thanks for admitting that, man. I feel you on it too, but I think a lot of people wouldn't admit that.
Yeah.
You know?
Unfortunately, I'll admit just about anything if it's true. And yeah, to look at, social media it's a perfect example where I said, because something makes me uncomfortable. And I think this is a tangent. I think our generation has like weaponized anxiety and stress. And we've used it as a crutch and a shield to get us out of doing hard things. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I really want to do this thing, experience this thing, but I'm experiencing anxiety. And so it's probably not good for me. So I don't have to do it. And we never want to force people to feel uncomfortable. We never want to force people to push themselves. And like I said, my greatest moments of growth have been when I'm at my most uncomfortable.
You just kind of gave me a light bulb. Like those moments at the pit of despair are actually trampoline moments. Like I think we all feel that way. Anytime that you've ever had growth, like you said, my biggest moments of growth are out of the pit of despair. It's like that's the trampoline, but so few people can see it that way or welcome it like that. Okay, I'm hitting this growth spurt. I'm having this, maybe some of my survival patterns are kicking in, anxiety's kicking in, and I don't want to do this thing. But if I push through it, it's definitely the trampoline that's going to get me, to that new level. And then you just keep kind of doing that over and over again and rinse and repeat. But I don't think it's easy to look at it like that. I think most people probably just try to avoid it because it's painful.
Right.
It's hard. It's lonely. It's scary. You have to face all your uncomfortable feelings in your body when you're like terrified at night and you can't sleep.
Yeah, I really loved the way that you worded, and I'm not going to be able to say it how you did, but how we use our anxiety as a shield from doing hard things. Like that's too uncomfortable, so I'm not going to do it, because I can even see in myself when I go to post something, I am so anxious.
Yeah.
So much of our content is so vulnerable in nature. And I think just in general, putting yourself out there online, if it's not vulnerable, is still really scary. What are people going to think? And so I have these massive anxious feelings. So oftentimes I find myself scrolling to avoid feeling the anxiety.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like there's like two lanes. You can face the anxiety and you can do the hard thing and have the life that you want, or you can actually just numb the feeling and stay where you are. And I think that's true of like anxiety in some forms. I think there's other forms of anxiety that are healthy and, we should probably listen to. But I do think that if we overemphasize listening to our anxiety, we will be stuck almost in a different pit. And that pit is not actually pursuing what you want to pursue.
Yeah, it's like we get stuck on the edge of the pit before we fall in, because we're like, I don't want to go in there. Even though that's where the growth and change is going to happen, we just like holding on for dear life to the edge, refusing to go in. And I think that's that using anxiety as a crutch to avoid growing and improving.
Yeah, because it's exactly what you said. You can't have growth and comfort.
Right.
They don't exist together. And so the moment that you even try to grow, you're going to feel anxious or uncomfortable feelings inside of your body. And then you're left with this choice of, do I sit with these feelings and keep pressing forward, or do I return back to the old version of me that's safer and smaller?
Right.
Yeah, it's like so tricky, because one of my biggest, thoughts on anxiety is that it's our body just telling us something, but we don't know what it's saying. So like sometimes anxiety could be like you're dating somebody and they're doing a bunch of things or treating you a certain way and you need to leave the relationship, or like you're like, I need to get away from, out, maybe I shouldn't hang out with these friends, or maybe I shouldn't be drinking so much or doing like these things. But also it could be false anxiety, like you're saying, like where it's like anxiety can be an excuse not to do something that I actually want to do. So we have to like somehow learn how to decipher what our body's telling us. And is it telling us yes or no? And I was just reading a book recently by this guy, like talking about listening to his heart, like literally just learning when your heart is saying yes or when your heart is saying no, and how valid of a tool that is. Because if you don't know what it's saying, you can fall for the trap of anxiety means no always, or it could be anxiety means yes always, which I think I kind of probably leaned into when I was younger, just like flail and try everything, like throw myself into a bunch of anxious situations. But like learning how to interpret that inner voice, that like intuition is huge. Would you say that your like why you do all this creative process, like I kind of heard maybe something in there where it's like is a desire to be authentic, or you can't go to work at 8 to 5 and sell life insurance maybe because it's like you would be going against all that inner, I don't know, your intuition really like screaming at you. It sounds like your intuition screams at you to be creative.
Yeah, unfortunately, it feels that way. It's like I wake up thinking about my current project, and I go to bed thinking about my current project. And when I have worked other jobs, I feel like I spend my whole time there just like yearning to be working on those things, and it's a huge distraction. And to the point that it feels really annoying. And so, yeah, and I have this weird battle where, I think the Lord calls us to things, and so it's like trying to discern, is this my own just like internal desires, or is this like what the Lord's calling me to? Has actually always been a battle for me, because in my opinion, once again, I look at like where my career is and stuff. It's like I feel like I've hit every roadblock. If there's a mistake, I've made it. And it feels like everything has worked against me and my vision for my pursuit of the career. But I'm like, the Lord's like made me truly like obsessed with my like creative desires. And so I'm like, why would God make me obsessed with this if it's not going to work out? And so I wrestle with this, like, is this just me being obsessed with stuff I've been obsessed with since as long as I can remember? Or is this like the path that's laid before me? And so I really struggle with that as well. Yeah, and I have a super interesting relationship with the Lord, I think, where I'm most honest with him, and something that's been so fruitful for me. Because when we're kids, we learn like, oh, when we pray, we must close our eyes, bow our heads, and our Father who art in heaven. I have like really intense, like angry conversations with God. And there's been seasons, and it's usually when I'm in the pit, when things aren't going well, where I'm just like, you feel so distant. You feel like I feel like I've been abandoned sometimes. And I tell him that. And like
Yeah.
a huge way I get out of the pit is through like working through that. And that's a huge part of escapism for me, is like, I don't want to have that conversation with God. And because I'm just like, what are you doing with my life? What do you want from me? And then I have that fear of like, maybe I'm doing the wrong things because nothing's working out. Or is this just part of it? Because you have to fight for it. If it's going to work out, you have to fight for it. And it's going to be hard. Or am I not supposed to do this? And so for me, it's like journaling through those thoughts, and like I have to write down my prayers because like I said, my mind's I get distracted really easily. So I can't like just like pray in my head. So I have to write down my prayers. Otherwise, like I off on a tangent immediately and forget what I'm bringing before the Lord.
Tanner, of all of the struggles that you've just talked about with us, do you channel this into your novels and into your writing? And like, are there characters that you've developed that go through similar challenges that you've faced?
For sure. I think like book 2 is about to come out. Plug. Just kidding.
Yes, plug it.
Actually,
plug
wait.
it.
Please plug.
Yeah.
Tell us. I mean, book number 1 is Titan's Nest,
Correct.
but tell us more about book 2.
Book 2 is titled Sigra's Roost, and is book 2 in the Titan's Nest saga. Coming out this year. I don't have a hard date set because I'm still trying to figure things out. But yeah, I think there's a lot of myself and my work, and one of the main characters for sure is going through a transformative experience across the series. My goal was that you wouldn't be able to really recognize him from book 1 to book 3, that he's just a completely different character, mainly like emotionally, because he starts out really insecure and just feeling really unworthy of the position he's been put in, and that he's starting to realize that yes, he was unworthy of the position that he's put in, but now he's earning it. And a huge part of his story is it's essentially just perseverance, and everything we're talking about is that when you're in the pit of despair, bummer, but now it's time to strap up and you got to claw your way out. And in book 2, a huge part of his like character arc is recognizing that and saying, and like kind of looking back and recognizing all these little victories that he didn't see as victories in the past. And he's realizing, oh, this has all shaped me and formed me into the person that I'm becoming. And kind of the finale of book 2 is when he accepts that and he's just better for it. And I think he's obviously still got a long way to grow and learn as we move into book 3. But yes, and I think to answer your question, yes, my creative journey, whatever we want to call it, it reflects his mentality of woe is me at first, right? Woe is me. Why has this happened to me? Why has this happened to me? Why has this happened to me? And then making the switch of this isn't happening to me, this is happening for me. And that's been a challenge for me, is to accept that like the world's not out to get me. These barricades aren't, placed intentionally to stop me. These things are there for me so that I can grow and change and hopefully get better.
Sounds like exactly what you're describing your journey to be like, man.
Yeah, kind of, for sure.
Yeah, just
Was
like
that conscious or subconsciously?
I think a little bit of both. I think I wasn't entirely sure when he was going to realize that and make that switch. And I spent like a lot of time writing a mentor scene where the mentor kind of like explains this to him. And he's like, this is just being human, is falling. And you're going to fall 100 times. You're going to fall over and over again. The difference between you and everybody else is you're going to choose to keep getting back up. And it's just, that's what it is. It's just stumbling forward. And I've accepted that just about everything in my life that I think I've earned has never been graceful. It's never been flawless. It's stumbling forward, and it's messy, and it's not maybe story worthy, but it's not the hero's tale. It's just like, oh, he just kept going. He just put his shoulder down and kept going forward. And I guess that's admirable in a sense. And it's not sexy, but it seems like where a lot of people might have stopped. And it's like, all right, just gonna keep going forward. I feel like I don't actually have a ton of gifts. I don't feel like I'm ever the smartest person in the room. Or the fittest. I'm horrible at math, but I think my gift is I've always been really persistent. That's the gift the Lord has given me, is that I'm just annoyingly persistent.
that's a huge gift, man. I mean, I think out of all of them, that's usually the people that win, is the people who just are consistent as hell and keep going no matter what trials or tribulations they face. And that's like, I mean, that's kind of that is the hero's journey, kind of,
Right,
of like
I guess,
just
yeah.
continuing through all the trial, man.
Also, what landed you my sister.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
All
am
the best things-
grateful you
yeah.
have that gift.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like all the best things in my life have come from being just annoyingly persistent. Chloe, yeah, my wife wanted nothing to do with me when we first met in junior high, and I always had a crush on her, and I was, again, annoyingly persistent. When I joined the football team my freshman year, I had never played tackle football like growing up. I didn't play Pop Warner and stuff, but I really wanted to be on the football team. And my freshman year, rode the bench. My sophomore year, I rode the bench. My junior year, I rode the bench. But I never missed a practice. I showed up and tried as hard as I could. Every time they put me on the field, I went as hard as I could. My senior year, I got to start like every game. And a lot of my buddies that are freshman, sophomore, junior year that didn't play at all, they quit, and I didn't blame them. I'm like, yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
It's really shitty. But then like I got to see the fruits of that labor and actually got to play my senior year, the whole season. And that's kind of just the mindset I've had. I'm like, okay, if I want this, then it's got to be worth fighting for, and I'm just not going to quit. And it sucks most of the time. It's a lot easier to quit.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think, I've heard that before too. Like some of the most successful people actually do have that drive out of a place of like, I'm just not gonna quit. But tell me, are you ever in a complete, just non-creative mood and just don't have it, or do you always just have something to give to your, the posts that you do or your writing? Like, if you sit down to write, do you ever have a writer's block?
I've experienced writer's block with like specific projects, and what gets me out of my funk with that is just immediately like I'll just shift to a different project. So like Titan's Nest is a fantasy epic. If I'm like things have been really slow and I'm like feeling really stuck, I've got 50 other ideas, and I'll go work on like a sci-fi thing. Um, Something that'll never see the light of day that I'm like, it's just for me. I'm just gonna like have fun and not think about this project. And then that usually like starts to open up the creative juices and leads to me like heading back to Titan's Nest, whatever it is. Um, so I just bounce around a lot. My Google Docs is just chaos, and yeah, I don't know. I haven't met someone else that had to buy more storage in Google Docs because I had so many different documents in there of just random ideas. Um, so no, I mean, there's definitely seasons where things are slower, and I think there's seasons where I'm unmotivated to actually like sit down and do the work and get stuff on paper or like make a video. But the idea is usually there. It's just taking those steps to actually get it done, which for a lot of people is the hardest part. I talk to honestly like 60% of people are often like, "Oh, dude, I have an idea for a book. I want to write a book." I'm like, "Yeah, I think the percentage of people that can actually sit down and make it happen are obviously, like I said, 1 in 1,000. It's a rare thing to actually like finish a creative project like that. But everybody, it feels like, has ideas and like has the creativity within them. It's the challenge of being consistent and motivated to actually write a 600-page novel or whatever you're passionate about.
In what ways do you feel like writing is therapeutic for you, or is it therapeutic for you?
Yes, I think it's therapeutic. It's a strange relationship writing and I have. It's the one thing that I can go to a coffee shop and sit there without moving for like 6 hours and like not notice the time has gone. So yes, I have a really strange relationship with writing where it's like shined a light on my biggest insecurities, and I think it's caused my like greatest wounds because it's so vulnerable. And again, like sometimes you just feel like such a failure. So it's inflamed my greatest insecurities, it's caused my greatest wounds, and somehow I still want to spend all of my time doing it because I think it is therapeutic and it brings me a strange, unfathomable amount of joy for some reason. And like I said, I can sit there and I can do it for hours and not notice the time go by. And what usually like startles me is I'm like, my gosh, I have to pee so bad. How long have I been sitting here? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 4 hours. I should go pee. Um, and it just kind of like blots out the challenges and the worries and the anxieties of the real world. And I love that there's no rules. I think I've never been like, I've always had a hard time following everyone else's rules. That's why I've hated every other job I've ever had. But with writing, it's solely up to me, and it's just like a safe space where I can express whatever I want.
If you're willing to share,
Sure.
I'm really curious how it inflames your insecurities, because I've read Titan's Nest and was floored at how spectacularly good it is. And I view your content and I'm like, how did he think of this? And so I the way that I see you, I just can't fathom you being insecure about your work. So can you tell me a little bit more about those insecurities?
Sure. Yeah.
Be careful. We're going to start getting into like some deep couch therapy right now.
I'm happy to share. Yeah, I think, comparison is the thief of joy, right? I read a lot, as you can imagine, and I will read something by like a Pierce Brown or a Brandon Sanderson, and I will like finish one of their books and I will feel like wholeheartedly defeated and be like, I am never going to write anything like this. And then I almost start to feel embarrassed. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know people that have read these, that have read Titan's Nest, and they probably think I'm an idiot. It's obviously just super vulnerable. I don't know if you ever like had to write a poem or something for class and then get up in front of share it in front of the class. It feels like that to me, like times 100. And there, it can be as small as like discovering a typo after print, or you spell something wrong, and it's a small thing that I think most people are just like, whatever. It's 150,000 words. Something's probably eventually going to slip through the cracks. To me, it's like, it feels like such a weight, like crushing down me. It makes me feel stupid. And like, I think there's not a stigma. There's, the literary world is, I think, cohesive with intelligence and refinery. Yeah, and it's just hard to feel stupid. And again, these are like all things that are probably self-inflicted. And again, like reading other people's works, it all comes from comparison. At the end of the day, it's like everything negative in my mind comes from comparison, and all of my insecurities with writing come from comparing against people that are far further in their career than I, and then in my head, I'm like, they're just far smarter than I am. They're far more successful. And it's also just challenging. It's obviously hyper niche to ask people and friends and family to be like, hey, read my 600-page dragon novel. 'Cause it's like, and there's for sure a stigma of fantasy where it's like, oh, you must take the power gem to Glorb. And it's like, I'm like, okay, it's not that kind of fantasy. Maybe to some people it is. In my mind, it's far cooler than that. But so there's insecurities that come with that too. Like people, like I'm like they probably think I'm a huge dork, which I am. But you want people to think you're cool. Everybody wants them to think they're cool. Thankfully, there's a part of me that died a long time ago that I was like, yeah, I'm just like, I've always felt like I wasn't cool enough for the jocks because I have like this passion for like fantasy and sci-fi and comic books and video games. And then I always felt like not accepted by the nerds because I was also like playing football and lacrosse. And so I've always felt like I've hovered between like these two worlds that I just like, as tacky as it sounds, as juvenile as it sounds, I've never really felt like I belonged with like any faction of people. And that's been weird too.
I think that's so awesome though, man. Like, and if you think about it, we probably all feel that way to a degree. I mean, I know I've always felt that way with different, hobbies or interests that I have. We're so multifaceted,
Mm-hmm.
I heard this Mark Twain quote the other day that was like, if you find yourself on the side of majority, it's time to stop and reflect.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like being that anomaly is kind of just what makes you so special. Like nobody is you that played lacrosse, football, and wrote a dragon novel. Like that. There's probably only one. Sorry. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty awesome. Like I think that's in adulthood, you start to realize what made you feel like you didn't belong when you were younger is probably where your greatest, superpowers are.
right.
It's like what makes you so special.
Mm.
Yeah. Sorry, I told you I was gonna start giving you some therapy on the couch.
That's great.
Already.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you when you hit those insecure moments or like find a typo in your book, do you ever have like a tool or like a favorite novel of yours or some, really successful author that you have like circled his typos in his books? Like it's a great reality check.
Yeah, no, I am overwhelmed with joy when I find
Yes.
a typo in like a major Big Five house traditionally published book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me feel so great, genuinely.
Yep. Yeah. No, I
Because then I'm
agree.
like, oh, like everybody's human.
We are
Ye-
all human.
Yeah, I was just showing her a typo in a book we were reading by like Hay House the other day. Like I was like, it's not that I want to celebrate their failure. Like
Yeah,
I'm
of
not
course,
like
right.
I don't want to bring them down, but it's just it almost makes them more human. And
Totally.
like, oh, this is awesome that
This
other
was
people mess
not
up.
created by ChatGPT.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Mm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that piece that you said on just comparison being the thief of joy,
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about it, that you would be comparing yourself to other authors. Probably in the same way when you view our podcasts, you probably don't think, oh, they probably compare themselves to other podcasts. And I find myself doing that at times too. And it totally not only steals my joy, but it makes me shaky in fear of what I am creating and going like,
Mhm.
well, this is not as good as this person. So should I even put it out there?
Yeah.
And the reality is the only difference between us and the greats that we want to become is they have climbed in and out of the pit of despair far more times than us.
Right.
And so it's just that reminder that the only way to become the Pierce Brown and, those dream authors that you love their books is to keep writing your books. Because I can guarantee you they've got some novels that they're like, those
Yeah.
were rough in the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's just such a beautiful reminder to keep going. And
Yeah, I mean, I actually believe that you're making it right now. Like now, I think I've told you this before. Like these are the good old days. Like this is
God,
where
I hope
you
not.
like this is where you're like building. I mean, the good old days is in like
No, I know what you
like
mean. Absolutely.
but like this is where you're building the foundation of the house. You're designing the plans. Like it's like when people build their dream house and then they move into it, that's not actually the time they reflect on. Like, yeah, it's nice to go make a meal in their kitchen that they designed and stuff, but they always go, remember that time we were sitting out there and it was all like, we do that now at the house. Like, remember when it was a dirt lot?
Yeah.
It's like when it was a dirt lot was the time that we kind of celebrate, oddly enough. And it's like, because that's the pit of despair. Like those moments where you're like, I can't believe this is going to turn into a wedding venue, or like, I can't believe this is going to turn into a successful writing career. It's like, yeah, that's the sweet spot. And I just know in 10 years, you're going to look back and be like, yeah, that was the time. Like, this is the time you and Chloe we're all going to be talking about, when you were just fighting for your life, like literally fighting for the life you want. It's super cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love watching it with that like kind of lens and awareness.
yeah, I can't wait until we're like, remember when you only had 20,000 followers?
Yeah.
And like your book wasn't at a major publisher? Like, I can't wait until
Me too.
we say that.
Yeah.
And we will.
Yeah, and we'll have you back on when
Oh, you guys will not be able to afford me then.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys though? You have such a unique creative journey here that you're paired and walking through it together, and obviously living together. And do you feel that when you guys have experienced the pit of despair, have you felt that you guys are in it at the same time? Are you guys in there separately and you're helping each other get out? Does that make sense? Has it been cohesive? Are you guys just all over the place?
Oh my goodness. I love that you just turned the tables on us. And that is such a good question, because when we are both in the pit of despair, it's not good.
Yeah,
It is
ugly for
not
sure.
good.
Yeah.
We both fully have our moments in the pit. And thankfully, for the most part, they're not at the same time. But if they are, we kind of have to we basically tell each other, I don't have capacity for your pit of despair. And we've never used that as the word, but basically I don't have emotional capacity to help you right now because I'm drowning. I don't have capacity for you. And so that's we have to communicate it to each other if we're in it at the same time. If we're not, one of us does try to pull each other out of the pit, or just has faith that the other person will eventually make their way out.
Yeah.
And I would say ours are about 1-day pits on
Yeah.
average. Dave typically, I would say, I'm going to speak for you in this. He always comes out of the pit with like a brilliant idea. He catapults out of the pit. I just like kind of like, hey, I'm not down in the dumps. Like, this is great. But you normally come out with.
I would say you're more in and out of the pit of despair more often, where I'm more like high highs and low lows. Like I'll be in it for more than a day. I'll be in it for 3 or 4 days, and I won't always validate it. I will like sit there and be like, I can't believe I'm in this right now. Like I won't. I'll be in denial for a day or two, and I'll be like, what's going on with me? And then I'll start to, like you said, I'll feel kind of distant from God in a way, or like, where is God right now? What is happening? And then I'll end up realizing what's going on, and it'll start to make sense after like 4 or 5 days. And then that's when it clicks of why I was in the pit. It's usually some bright idea that I have. Like it was some kind of anxiety that something needed to shift, like whether I need to work out more, or whether I need to, create something that I was trying to be in denial about creating, or sometimes it's like I need to take care of something around the house that I've been avoiding. It could be as simple as that. Like it's something I'm avoiding working on. Like almost always I'm avoiding doing something that just feels too hard. And then once I like go like, oh, I need to do that thing, then all of a sudden I have like a bunch of energy to go do the thing. Yeah, but I would say it's like for me probably 4 or 5 days out of like a month, and then it's like up for the other 3 weeks, and then Shiv's more like once a week or so.
It's touch and go.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So we kind of ebb and flow, but we have learned communication because when we try to help each other too much, it was like it would actually cause kind of an argument, or it would just not be good. So now we've had to be like, where are you at? Just get really good at checking in. Like, where are you at? I'll even say like, do we need to double up on podcasts so that way we won't podcast when we're both in a funk, or like, what do we need to do to adjust so that we can stay creative, stay hopeful, stay positive, and not let those like seasons of the despair kind of kill it,
Yeah.
And then you said it earlier on too. It's like all about knowing we're gonna enter it again. Like this isn't the last one I'm ever gonna go through. I'm probably gonna be there next month or next week. And when I do, how can I get better at working with those emotions and kind of understanding it? So that way I'm like gaining intel on my own self,
Yeah.
Yeah. We all go through this, but how do we not like know? It's because it's just hard, right?
Yeah.
It's just hard to face your own self-worth conversation in your head, or imposter syndrome, like all these different terms that we have for just those difficult feelings that we're going through as we're having self-doubt.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's like it feels like we're in denial a lot. Like we don't want to admit that feel like we're failing at something, that we can't figure something out, and we don't want to admit that to ourselves, and especially not to other people. And it's like it's not until we start to work our way out that we're like, oh yeah, I was having a bad time. I was in a dark place.
Totally.
Oh, so true. Well, Tanner, as we kind of wrap up the end of the episode, could you just share a little bit about Titan's Nest, about your upcoming book, and then also where we can find you? Because I'm pretty sure people are going to want to find you after this.
That's for sure. Yes, Titan's Nest is a young adult dragon rider fantasy with, I think, some really unique twists that aren't being done in the dragon rider space right now, which I'm really excited about. And book 1 is currently available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Audible if you're an audio listener, which I recommend, so you don't find my typos. And book 2 is coming out this year. Sigra's Roost, and you can find me anywhere on all the apps at TDOrel_author, and I would love to connect with you.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on, man. We love you, and you'll forever be the best wedding officiant we've ever had
Wow.
or seen or
It was truly something else.
witnessed.
We didn't even have the time to get into that. But
Yeah, it was the best.
Far too kind. You guys are
Uh,
easy audience.
Yes. All right, Tanner. Love you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.